You know that feeling of being stuck in something that you know is bad, but you still can't get out? It's as if you're inside a house that's falling apart, and even though you see the cracks, you're still there, hoping that, somehow, it will repair itself. A lot of people experience this in relationships. It's not that you're weak. It's not that you don't see what's happening. The problem is deeper. It's what this relationship created inside you. You already promised yourself you'd leave. He told himself that this time it would be different. Maybe he even left, but he came back. And maybe you are there now, asking yourself, why am I still here if I am so unhappy? And the answer may surprise you. It's not because the person manipulates you so well. It's not because you love it so much that you can't let go. And it's also not because one day it was good and it can be again. The real prison is not outside. It is inside you. This type of relationship, however painful it may be, messes with very old parts of our mind. It activates feelings that you may not have even known were there. Fear of being alone. The feeling that you need to prove that you are worthy of love. The hope that if you are better, more patient, more loving, everything will get better. And that's where the trap forms. It's not about the other. It's about how it all makes you feel. The problem is that these feelings are so intense that it seems like they have a life of their own. Even when you try to walk away, something pulls you back. And it's not love. It's the custom. It is the attachment to what it could be, even if it never was. It's the what if. And the more you feed this what if, the more stuck you become. And you know what hurts most? It's just that, deep down, you feel like something is wrong, but he can't seem to escape. And that's why I want to tell you something important now. It's not your fault. This has nothing to do with weakness. It has to do with how our mind works when it's stuck in something that mixes pain and desire at the same time. These relationships are like an emotional maze. You think you're almost out, almost free, but suddenly you find yourself in the same place. And every time this happens, a little piece of your confidence disappears. You start to doubt yourself, wondering if you're exaggerating, if you're the problem. But it's not. The problem lies in the invisible trap that was built little by little. And I want to ask you a question now, very direct. What do you feel when you think about leaving this relationship? Fear? Blame? Doubt? Right here in the comments. In truth, tell me, because when you write, you start to see yourself more clearly, and maybe other people watching will also see that they are not alone. Your story could be the courage someone else needs to change too. Maybe no one has ever told you this, but understanding what is happening inside you is the first step to regaining your freedom. Because as long as you think the problem lies with the other person, you will continue to wait for the other person to change. But the change that liberates begins within, and it starts when you realize that you don't need to accept less than you deserve. So, if right now you're feeling that lump in your throat, that urge to cry mixed with anger and confusion, breathe. You are exactly where you need to be. Because from here, you will start to see more clearly. And the more clarity you have, the more power you regain. No one can hold you back when you understand what is keeping you there. And it is precisely this understanding that could be the key to your liberation. Because when we understand what is really hurting us, we stop blaming the thorn and start removing our foot from the wrong place. And you deserve to walk free, light, in peace. Before continuing, just answer me one thing mentally. Are you already subscribed to the channel? Because if you're not there yet, maybe this is the time. Here we don't talk about ready-made formulas or empty phrases. We talk about the soul, about real transformation, about those things that touch where ordinary words can't reach. And if this has resonated with you so far, it's a sign that there's much more waiting for you here. So check if the button is still red, and click. This ensures you don't miss out on any content that could spark something inside you, sometimes right when you need it most. And when you start to see more clearly, as we talked about before, something inside you also starts to move. It's like turning on a light in a dark room that you've avoided opening. And in this light, you begin to realize that what holds you to pain is not the other. It is what this relationship represents for you. And that's where the quietest trap lies. Attachment to feelings, to hope, to the need to be enough for someone who may never be ready to truly love you. The truth is that we don't just get attached to people. We cling to the stories we create in our heads, to the desire to prove something that perhaps doesn't even need to be proven. Many times, we are trying to heal an old wound using a current relationship, unconsciously wanting that love to erase everything that hurt back then, as if, finally, someone is going to choose you the way no one has chosen you before. From a young age, we learn that love is something we need to conquer, that we need to deserve. And if you grew up in an environment where affection came with rejection, where you never knew when you would truly be loved, your brain learned something very dangerous, that love is confusing, that affection is unstable, and that to be loved, you need to fight, adapt, cancel yourself out. This becomes a pattern, and this pattern starts to feel normal. Then, when you find someone who treats you consistently, with respect, with lightness, it seems strange. It looks artificial. Your mind rejects what is healthy because it has been trained to find safety in what hurts. And when someone comes into your life offering you love little by little, giving you attention one day and ignoring you the next, this activates exactly what your mind recognizes as love. And then you get stuck. But it's not love. It's emotional addiction. You're addicted to the roller coaster of emotions, that irregular dose of affection that makes you seek approval all the time. You begin to live for the good times and endure the bad, as if they were just the price to pay. And so, your personal value is being eroded. You start to accept less and less, hoping that, at some point, that affection will return to the way it was in the beginning. This game of ups and downs has a name: intermittent reinforcement. It's a psychology term that explains how the brain responds to unpredictable rewards. It works like this. When you never know when you're going to receive something good, you try harder, hold on more, insist more, because your mind starts to believe that the next gesture of affection could be the one that changes everything, and it holds you like an invisible rope. The cruelest thing about this process is that it lowers your standards. Before, you wanted respect. Afterwards, I just wanted him or her not to disappear. Before, you dreamed of a light love. Now, just hope there isn't a fight. And so, you forget who you were. You become convinced that accepting crumbs is better than having nothing. And this is the clearest sign that pain has become routine and hope a prison. This dynamic does not happen because you are weak. It happens because you were programmed to understand love as a challenge, as something to be deserved, as if you had to transform yourself to be accepted. But that's not true. Real love doesn't require you to hurt yourself to work. It doesn't diminish you. It doesn't put you in doubt all the time. When you start to realize this, something changes, maybe subtly at first, but it changes. You start to wonder, what if it's not about making it work with this person? What if it's about understanding why I still think I need to fight to be loved? And this question opens a new door, a door of liberation. Because the greatest freedom is not in leaving the relationship. It's about breaking out of the pattern that led you to it. It's about looking inside and realizing that you no longer need to prove anything to anyone, and that being truly loved will never require you to lose yourself. And when you finally begin to understand that what holds you back is not the person, but rather the pattern that was installed back there, you also begin to see what is behind so many comings and goings. It's not just attachment. It's not just hope. It's a kind of emotional dependence so strong that it even seems like an addiction. And that's exactly it. An emotional addiction. Something that feeds on the small doses of affection you receive as if they were crumbs thrown on the floor. Enough for you not to leave, but never enough for you to feel complete. This type of bond is built on a cruel logic, that of unpredictable rewards. One day, everything seems beautiful. The person smiles, says they love you, hugs you as if everything was okay. In the other comes silence, contempt, coldness. And this alternation does something very serious to your brain. He begins to hunt, to seek, to insist, as if he were a hunter after a prey that never gives up completely. You become a hostage to the moment when, perhaps, will feel loved again. It's like you're playing an emotional slot machine. You pull the lever hoping that this time the prize will come, and every now and then, it comes. And when it comes, it gives you that peak of pleasure, of hope, of now go. But soon after, everything returns to the same place. But you're already too stuck to stop. And with each attempt, you bet another piece of your heart. This is called intermittent reinforcement. And it is one of the most powerful ways to arrest someone. Not with chains, but with expectation. Not with harsh words, but with sweet promises that are never fulfilled. The truth is that you start to live for exceptions, for small gestures, for rare displays of affection. And that makes you put up with everything that comes with the package. The insults, the disappearances, the emotional instability, and the scariest thing is how, over time, your standard drops. In the beginning, you wanted to be a priority. Afterwards, I just wanted to not be forgotten. In the beginning, I dreamed of partnership, of light love, of reciprocity. Now, you just want the person not to hurt you so much. And that says much more about the pain you learn to accept than about the love you want to experience. This emotional distortion undermines your self-esteem. You start to blame yourself, thinking that maybe you're exaggerating, that you're too sensitive, that you just need to be more patient. But deep down, something tells you that this isn't right, that loving shouldn't hurt like this, that it wasn't supposed to be like this. And that voice needs to be heard, because she's the one still trying to remind you of who you really are. You know, maybe now is the time to stop and really reflect. How much have you accepted for fear of losing? And more, how many times have you stopped listening to yourself just so you don't bother others? Right here in the comments, talk to me. Tell me what hurt the most. Because when you share, you begin to heal. It can help others realize that they, too, are stuck in this cycle, sometimes without even knowing it. It's difficult to admit that we are addicted to an illusion, because, in a way, accepting this is accepting that the love you wanted never existed as you imagined. It's painful, it's heavy, but it's liberating, because only when you recognize what is keeping you in this cycle can you finally begin to break it. And this is where the most important part comes. You no longer need to continue feeding this addiction. The first step is to stop justifying. Stop romanticizing the good times and forgetting the bad. Stop thinking that if you change, everything will get better. You don't need to change who you are. You just need to remember who you were before all this started. You deserve to live a love that doesn't confuse you, that doesn't exhaust you, that doesn't make you beg for attention. You deserve a love that comes with peace, not doubts. But this love will only come when you stop insisting where there is only confusion. And yes, it will hurt to come out of this, but the pain of continuing is much greater. Oh, and before we continue, can I ask you something simple? But it has a huge impact. If this video makes sense to you, leave a like now. It's not just for metrics, nor for vanity. It's because when you do this, YouTube understands that this message has value and starts showing it to more people who may be going through exactly what you've experienced. It's almost like planting a seed of awareness in someone's path. And the most beautiful? When you spread something good, the universe always finds a way to give it back. So if it resonates, click the like button, and let's continue together. After so long stuck in this back and forth of feelings, there comes a moment when the pain stops being just emotional and starts to affect your perception of reality. You no longer know if what you feel is legitimate or exaggerated. He is no longer sure if he is really being mistreated or if he is just too sensitive. And this happens because, in addition to emotional addiction, there is another powerful weapon that traps you even more: psychological manipulation. Often you realize something is wrong: a strange attitude, a word out of place, a broken promise. But when you try to talk about it, the answer comes like an invisible slap. You're exaggerating. It's all in your head. You always complicate everything. Little by little, you start to doubt yourself, wondering if you're going crazy. And this constant doubt becomes a prison stronger than any other. This type of manipulation has a name: gaslighting. It's when the other person distorts the truth so much that it makes you discredit your own memory, your own feelings, your own intuition. You start going over conversations in your head, looking for evidence, justifying yourself even for what you didn't do. And even so, he ends up believing that maybe he really is wrong. This is one of the cruelest forms of control, because it's not the body that gets stuck, it's the mind. And the worst of all is that those who manipulate don't always shout or threaten. Sometimes it's subtle. It is with a look, with a silence, with a loose sentence that carries disguised guilt. It's that feeling that you're always walking on eggshells, trying to please so as not to provoke a new conflict. You begin to live on constant alert, and that, little by little, exhausts you inside. In addition to gaslighting, there is also the projection, which is when the other person throws everything they do at you. If he lies, he accuses you of being a liar. If he cheats, it says you're hiding something. If he humiliates you, say that you are the one provoking him. And the more this happens, the more you start to take on blame that isn't yours, carrying weights that are not yours, defending someone who is actually tearing you apart inside. This type of relationship robs you little by little. You realize it. You no longer know what is right or wrong. You no longer trust your reactions, your feelings, your truths. You lose the ability to position yourself, to protect yourself. And the saddest thing is that even though you realize all this, you often continue there, waiting for the other person to change. And this is where I want to ask you something very direct. How many times have you felt like you were going crazy in this relationship? How many times have you doubted your own memory from your own pain? Right here in the comments, talk to me, because your pain is real. And sometimes, just by writing, you begin to reclaim your own voice, the one that has been silenced for so long. Recognizing that you are being manipulated is painful, but it is also the beginning of healing. Because when you understand that you're not crazy, that you're not exaggerated, that you're not difficult to deal with, as they made you believe, you start to stand up. You begin to recover what was lost: your confidence in yourself, its clarity, its value. And as much as it hurts to face this reality, it is necessary, because you can't free yourself from something you haven't yet recognized as prison. You need to look straight ahead. He needs to accept that he is being manipulated not because he is weak, but because he is human, and because he was looking for love in the wrong place. And it's okay. Now you know. And knowing is the first step to change. You don't have to live like this. You no longer need to justify the pain you feel, nor accept being shaped by someone else's insecurities. You have the right to trust yourself again, to believe what you feel, and to reconstruct, with patience, the truth that was always yours. but that someone tried to erase. And after so long being manipulated, discrediting yourself, it is natural for the question to arise, but why am I still here? Even understanding the pain, even noticing the signs, something holds you back. And something often has a well-known name: fear of being alone. The idea of cutting this bond hurts as much as the relationship itself. And as contradictory as it may seem, it is this fear that makes you continue to hope that one day everything will change. This type of fear does not come out of nowhere. It comes from years of being told that being alone is synonymous with failure. It comes from the idea that society hammers home every day, that you need to have someone to feel complete. Films, music, social media, everything reinforces this belief that only those who are loved are happy. And this takes root, little by little, until you start to believe that accepting little is better than having nothing. And then you start to hold on to illusion of change. With each apology, each promise, each sweet word after a hurt, the idea is born that maybe this time it will be different. You start to live between what the person is and what you hope they will become. And it is in this gap between reality and fantasy that you sink. Because while you wait for transformation, you continue to be hurt by what never changed. Many people think they only stay in relationships like this for love. But in reality, what holds you back is attachment to potential from the other. That version that appeared at the beginning, that seemed so perfect, so welcoming. The same one that only appears now and then, like a distant memory. But because it appears sometimes, it makes you believe that it still exists and can come back. The problem is that time passes, and this idealized version never comes to fruition. What you have, on a daily basis, is someone who hurts, who diminishes, who makes promises and breaks them. But even so, you cling to the memory of the good times, believing that the other person just needs more time, more patience, more love. And so, you forget to give yourself all of this. And the more you invest in this hope, the harder it becomes to leave. Because now, there is another weight, the fear of having wasted time, energy, emotion. It's as if admitting that the person won't change is validating that you've lost a part of your life. But the truth is that continuing to insist is what makes you lose even more. Stopping is not failing. It's recognizing that you deserve more than empty promises. And look, there's no shame in admitting that you're afraid of being alone. That feels empty, just thinking about waking up and no longer having that message, that good morning, that familiar smell. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. But it is important to understand that loneliness and freedom are different things. Being alone for a while can be the beginning of a reconstruction. Being stuck with someone who destroys you, that's real loneliness. The illusion that the other person will change is also fueled by a sense of responsibility that should not be yours. You start to think that if you love enough, if you hold on a little longer, if you try harder, the person will realize the value they have in you. But true change only happens when it comes from within the other person. And if it hasn't come by now, maybe it never will. Therefore, perhaps the turning point is not when the other person changes, but when you understand that you no longer need to wait, that your life cannot be paused for a maybe, that your heart deserves more than patches, and your nights deserve more than tears hidden in the pillow. When you realize this, something changes inside you, and this change is irreversible. And that moment may be coming now. May this awareness be igniting something inside, a desire, even if shy, to stop waiting and start choosing yourself. And this is the beginning of a new story. Because when you choose yourself, fear begins to lose strength, and what seemed impossible before begins to become liberating. And when you start to choose yourself, as we said before, something changes. But contrary to what many think, this awakening does not bring immediate relief. On the contrary, the pain of leaving a toxic relationship often does not come from missing the person, but rather from the loss of hope. You're not just saying goodbye to someone. You are saying goodbye to the idea that one day everything could be different. And that hurts, because hope, even silent, held you upright. This kind of pain is confusing, because you know you're doing right, you know you deserve better, but you still feel like you're making a mistake. It's a mix of longing, fear, emptiness, and doubt. And then comes that inner voice. Did I overdo it? Did I give up too soon? Couldn't I have tried one more time? These questions hurt because they don't have a quick answer. They come from grief. And yes, leaving a toxic relationship requires going through grief. And this mourning is not just for the person. It's because of everything you stopped living while you were trapped there. It's for the versions of yourself you lost trying to please. It's for the sleepless nights, for the swallowed words, for the love you tried to give and it was never enough. And the hardest thing to accept is that you gave everything, and yet you weren't appreciated. And that feeling of worthlessness can be devastating. But it is precisely at this point of pain that real strength is born. Because it's there, in the silence after saying goodbye, that you start to truly hear yourself. At first, the noise of absence seems unbearable. The heart tightens, the mind tries to convince you to come back. But over time, what was anguish begins to turn into relief, in clarity, in peace. The same peace that you haven't felt in a long time, but which is now beginning to show signs of returning. And make no mistake, the process is not linear. There will be a day when you feel good, confident, ready to move forward. And there will be a day when you wake up wanting to send a message, to go back, to pretend that nothing happened. And on these days, it's important to remember, this discomfort is part of the healing. It's your body and soul detoxing from something that hurt you for a long time. It's like an addiction, really. In the first few days without that presence, you feel withdrawal. But little by little, he realizes that he survives, that breathes better, that he begins to rediscover parts of himself that were dormant. And then you understand that the pain of leaving, no matter how deep it is temporary. But the pain of continuing, that is eternal. In fact, let me ask you something very direct now. What do you fear most when imagining your life without this person? Right here in the comments. Put it out. Because when you name fear, it loses strength. And by sharing, you show that you're not alone. And you can even help someone else who's going through exactly the same struggle. You don't have to pretend everything is fine. There is no need to rush your healing. Grief is a sacred process. Every tear that falls, every memory that comes back, every desire to go back, is part of it. It's not weakness, it's reconstruction. And the more you allow yourself to feel, the more space you create to free yourself. Because deep down, what you're missing now was never real love. It was expectation. It was fantasy. It was a disguised lack of connection. And when that penny drops, it may hurt, but it's also freeing. You stop fighting for something that only existed in your head and start living what is. And the real, however simple it may seem, is always lighter than a heavy illusion. You are, little by little, clearing the ground in your life. It is removing the weeds that choked its roots. And maybe it doesn't have flowers yet. It doesn't have fruit yet. But now it has space. And it is in this space that you will plant what you really deserve to harvest. With patience, truly, with self-love. And even after clearing this emotional terrain, as we talked about in the previous topic, there is still a delicate moment in the path of those who are trying to free themselves. The echo of absence. Because the void left by a person does not disappear overnight. It makes noise. He tests you, and sometimes it's precisely that noise that confuses you, because it's not missing the person. I miss the routine, the touch, the familiar sound. It's the body missing what has become a habit, even if that habit was painful. You start to remember the good times, those rare days everything seemed to be okay. Your mind, in an attempt to protect itself, begins to romanticize the past. And then the danger approaches. Because when you miss, you weaken. And when it weakens, the cycle can repeat itself. The famous "hi, missing" appears. An unexpected message arrives, and the doubt returns with full force. Has he changed? Did she finally understand? Will it go now? But we must remember, the return of those who hurt you is not always regret. Often, it is just, "I'm afraid of," losing you completely. It's control slipping through your hands. It's the emptiness that your absence began to cause in the other, not out of love, but because of the lack of someone to manipulate. And if you're not emotionally steady, you run the risk of reopening a door you fought so hard to close. These relapses are common, and it's important to talk about it without guilt. Because going back to something that destroyed us is not stupid. It's lack, it's confusion, it's tiredness. Sometimes, it's just the desire to feel seen again, even if it's by those who have always ignored us. The problem is that when you return, the cycle starts again. And with each turn, you leave with less of yourself, with less strength, less hope, less identity. The truth is that those who really want to change, change, not just in words, but through clear, consistent, respectful attitudes. And what's more, those who truly change don't wait for you to leave to start acting differently. Those who truly love you care before the pain, not after the loss. And this is something you need to engrave in your heart. Whoever lost you through negligence does not deserve to win you back with promises. You no longer need to fall into this emotional dance. You already understand that what you feel is legitimate. You've cried enough. You've already believed. You've forgiven. You've tried. Now it's time to protect yourself, to let absence continue to be absence, because the space you open today is the same that tomorrow will be occupied by something that really nourishes you. But to do that, you need to keep that door closed. And I know keeping that decision is not easy. With each message, with each memory, the heart tightens. But this squeeze is temporary. And do you know what is stronger than the fear of being alone? The peace of no longer living in war. Because, little by little, you will realize that living with longing is even better than living in pain. And the longing passes, but the pain of continuing where you are not respected. This only gets worse. You've already walked a long way to get back to the same place. You have already understood more about yourself in a few days than you understood in years of living in silence. Now is the time to turn that pain into strength. This story in learning, and this void of space for a new version of you to flourish. A version that doesn't beg, that doesn't plead, that doesn't go back to what one day almost destroyed it. Moving forward is not about coldly turning your back. It's turning your face to the light. It's choosing to take a deep breath and continue, even shaking, even with doubts, even though I want to look back. But continue, because your freedom is just after the next step, and you deserve to get there. And when you choose to continue, even though you're trembling inside, even though you want to look back, something happens that few people talk about. The strength that seemed so distant begins to emerge within you. Still shy, still hurt, but real. Because the truth is that strength doesn't come before the decision. It comes after. It's when you stop fighting for others and finally start fighting for yourself that everything starts to change. You start to realize how much energy you were wasting trying to fix someone who didn't want to be fixed, trying to save a relationship that only sank you further, trying to convince someone of your value, while you yourself had already forgotten that no value needs to be proven. And when you truly stop this cycle of self-abandonment, you take the first step towards rebuilding everything that was lost. Little by little, you hear yourself again, remembering what you like, what you believe in, what gives you peace. You begin to realize that your life was revolving around a relationship that didn't make you grow, just survive. And it's at that moment that you feel a reality check. The pain of staying was greater than the fear of leaving. And now, even though you're scared, you're going. Because now it's about you. It's not about getting revenge, nor to prove anything to anyone. It's about recovering what was yours all along, the right to love yourself without asking permission. And that doesn't mean you'll wake up every day smiling, feeling strong. There are days when it will hurt. You will miss it. It will make you want to disappear. But even on those days, something inside you will whisper, keep going. You're almost there. And on this path back to yourself, you will discover that you are not alone. There are thousands of people going through exactly the same pain, with the same questions, the same fears. And that's why I want to invite you now. What was the moment you realized you could no longer continue in that relationship? Right here in the comments, share with us. Because your story could be the push someone needs to free themselves too. The most beautiful thing about all of this is that when you start to prioritize yourself, the world around you starts to respond. New people emerge. Opportunities appear. But more than that, you start to feel whole. Start looking in the mirror and, little by little, recognize yourself again. That person you once were has not disappeared. She was just suffocating, waiting for you to come back to her. And it is in this reunion that true healing happens. Not because everything was perfect, but because you stopped looking outside for what was always inside. Love, security, validation, peace. All of this is born when you choose yourself. And even if it takes time, even if there are still scars, you will realize that every step you take away from the pain is one step closer to who you were born to be. Now is the time to rebuild yourself calmly, with patience and with truth. No rush, no charge, without fear of making mistakes. Because on this new path, every mistake is learning, and every choice made with self-love is victory. You no longer need to chase those who don't want to. Now it's time to walk alongside those who strengthen you, starting with yourself. And if at some point the doubt returns, if the longing hits, if the desire to give up hits, remember everything you've overcome so far. Remember the nights you cried in silence, the times you smiled on the outside and imploded on the inside. Remember the strength that brought you here, because if you got to this point, it wasn't by chance. It was because something in you decided you deserved more. And that, my friend, is the beginning of liberation. And when you start to find yourself again, as we said before, a new challenge appears. Learn to live without pain. It may seem strange, but after so long in a relationship marked by emotional ups and downs, living in peace can feel strange. Silence feels empty. Calm feels like absence. And the absence of conflict feels like a lack of intensity. But really, it's your body and mind relearning how to breathe. You've spent so long getting used to the tension, the insecurity, the constant need to prove yourself, that now you need to relearn what it's like to live without needing to defend yourself all the time. And that takes time. It requires patience, because your mind will still try to create problems where there are none, just because it is addicted to instability. She will think the calm is suspicious, but it's not. It's freedom. And this freedom is scary at first. You may even feel lost, like someone who came out of prison and now doesn't know what to do with the doors open. But it is in this new space, without shouting, without demands, without emotional games, that the most beautiful process of all begins. Rebuild yourself. And it's not a quick or linear rebuild. It's a construction with pieces that you collected little by little, some still bruised, others ready to blossom. You begin to recover simple habits that had been erased. Go back to listening to music you liked, doing things that were good for you. Really? Laughing, without weight, without guilt. Small gestures become giants when you realize that you are once again in charge of your choices. And every healthy choice you make now reinforces the message that needs to resonate within you. I deserve to live in peace. Perhaps you will realize, along this path, that you have left many dreams aside, who paused plans, who shut up at important moments, who erased himself to fit into a space too small for you. And that's okay, because now you can return to all of this with more awareness, with more maturity, and, above all, with more self-love. The beautiful thing about this process is realizing that your pain was not in vain, that everything you've experienced has taught you something, that every tear matured you, that every disappointment brought you here. And now, with this baggage, you can identify more clearly who deserves to be by your side and who only weighs you down. And one important thing needs to be said. Rebuilding yourself doesn't mean you'll be ready for another relationship right away. It means that you will be ready, first, to be with yourself, to enjoy your own company, to understand that true love begins within. And when this is strong enough, you will naturally attract relationships that vibrate at the same frequency. You will look back one day and be proud of the path you have taken. You'll remember the days when you thought you couldn't do it, and you'll smile. Not because everything got easier, but because you got stronger. And you will understand that it was necessary to go through pain to awaken the awareness of who you really are. And in this new moment, it's not about seeking happiness all the time. It's about seeking truth. It's about living lightly, to make peace with your history and honor what you had to overcome to be here. Now, the question that matters is no longer, why did this happen to me? But rather, what can I build from this? And that's where your new journey begins. Because rebuilding yourself is not going back to who you were before the pain. It's becoming someone even more whole, more conscious, more true. Someone who learned, who fell and got up, and now he walks with more security, more respect for himself, and more peace in his heart. And after rebuilding yourself, even if you still have scars, there comes that silent and powerful moment when you look in the mirror and understand, I went back, not the same as before, better, more lucid, stronger, and most importantly, more whole. Because now, after everything you've faced, you've learned something that no one will ever take away from you: the power to choose yourself. And this decision, as simple as it may seem, changes everything. When you stop begging for crumbs and start treating yourself as a priority, the world around you starts to fall into line. Choosing yourself does not mean selfishness, coldness, or pride. It means recognizing that the love you offer to others must first exist within you. It means saying no when necessary, without guilt. It means stop trying to save those who sink you, because the love that is truly worth it never turns you against yourself. And now you understand that losing yourself to someone will never be an option again. You learned this through pain, but now you carry that lesson like a shield of wisdom. And perhaps, at this moment, you are feeling that relief of someone who survived, but also that question deep down: did I really do it? So, let me ask you something very direct. What changed inside you after all this? Right here in the comments. Share with me, because your transformation could be the spark that someone else needs to awaken too. Sometimes a sincere comment is what saves someone's day. Now it's up to you. The path is open, and it doesn't matter how long it takes, nor how many breaks you need. The important thing is that now you walk for yourself, for who you are becoming, for who you always were, but only now have you allowed yourself to find yourself again. Because at the end of the day, the true love of your life has always been you. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like if this content helped you in any way. This motivates me to keep bringing more videos like this to you. Also, take a look at the videos suggested on the screen. I'm sure they will interest you too. Thank you so much for watching this far, and we'll see you in the next video.